You're listening to a Mamma Mia podcast.
This episode of No Filter proudly supports Rise Up, RIZE UP. It's a wonderful grassroots community organisation who help to provide the comforts of home to women and children fleeing from family violence. Often they have to leave in the middle of the night with nothing but the clothes on their back, sometimes even just in their pyjamas. And you can help these traumatised families just by liking Rise Up on Facebook. That's where they do their call-outs for everything from toasters to blankets, towels and toys, all the things that you need to set up a safe, secure home for people who have nothing. I'm a proud ambassador for Rise Up because I believe every person should be able to live safely in a home free from violence and abuse. That's Rise Up, RIZE, UP. And if you want to know more, you can visit their website, riseup.com.au.
I just kept saying to myself, this is not going to happen. This is so not going to happen. This is not going to be my story. Like, it's not happening while it was happening. But I just was not going to let it get to that point. I mean, I didn't really know how it was all going to play out. You don't really think of it when in the heat of the moment. But, yeah, I was adamant to put up the best fight possible.
Hi, I'm Mia Friedman, and welcome to No Filter, a podcast where there is no such thing as too much information. Joining me today is personal trainer, author, television personality, entrepreneur, new mum, and all-round hard-working fitness guru, Michelle Bridges. Michelle, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. And
It's so
I love
lovely to
that.
have you here.
There's no filter.
There's no filter.
Oh, thank goodness, because my boobs are killing me.
We were talking about Axel before, and I thought, I better not. Look, we're both now holding our boobs.
I know, right?
I thought we better not, otherwise you'll start leaking. Now I'm going to read some facts about you, and you just feel free to interrupt me.
So do I
if I'm
say
wrong.
fact or fiction?
Yeah, no, they're mostly facts.
Okay, cool.
Tell me if they're wrong. I've learnt so much. So you're 45 years old.
Correct.
You were born and raised by your mother in and around Newcastle, but you spent part of your childhood in a little country town in New South Wales called Barraba with your grandmother.
Yeah, well, my grandparents.
Your grandparents. When you were 14 at high school, you noticed kids who weren't doing sport after school and were sitting around smoking, so you started your own fitness class.
Pretty much, yep. It was sport on a Wednesday. I wanted to do something with them because they were just doing nothing.
You were badly bullied during high school, and sport became a bit of an outlet for you. And the better you got at sport, the more popular you became. And then you became a fitness instructor at 18.
That's absolutely true. We moved around a lot, so I was an easy target, always the new girl, really easy target. And that kind of happened quite a bit, so I did lean on my sport. But I started teaching classes when I was 14, and then I got legal when I was allowed to at 18.
At 18.
So I was doing it undercover.
That was a really hard year for you in other ways as well. That year you were sexually assaulted, and you describe it in your new book, Make It Happen, as the fight of my life. Now, I don't want to sort of jump through a whole bunch of other facts because this is like an incredibly serious and traumatic experience. You write in the book about how after the assault, the police asked you how short your skirt was.
That was.
Did that really happen?
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking. When I was 18, it was 88. It was actually in court that came up. That his lawyer started bringing into the whole court case what I was wearing.
What actually happened? Do you feel comfortable talking about it, or?
No, not really. Like I have spoken. You know what? I never spoke about it at all. Really, even some of my close friends didn't know about it. And then I was doing a shoot with Women's Weekly quite a few years ago, and my husband at the time, Bill, said, you should tell them about what happened to you. And I was like, really?
Why did he think you should tell them?
He just thought it was a pretty amazing story. And I was, I don't know, should I, shouldn't I? Anyway, I did, and then I immediately regretted it.
Why?
Only for a moment, but there was a moment of like, I shouldn't have told them that, and I don't want them to make the whole story about that. But then I got over that, and I felt quite empowered by it. And then I had a lot of my friends going, my God, we didn't even know this about you. And I sort of just put it to the past. It wasn't like I was trying to hide it. But then I had a lot of ladies, young girls, that had said that they'd read the story and felt quite empowered by it, Some of them had had things happen to them and they'd not said anything. So, yeah, it was kind of...
Was it almost a bit like triggering for you, reliving it a little bit, talking about it again and having everyone come and telling you their stories?
You could sort of, like, I mean, you could say that. You could easily think, oh, you know, she's going to relive it again. But, I'd put it so far behind me that it's not like I'd forgotten about it. But it was like this dusty old chapter of my life that had been sitting in the back cupboard for so long I'd forgotten it was even there. But then just recently I'm doing Australian Story and I sat down and I spoke about it. And I probably spoke about it a lot more than I planned to. Like, I really went
just
there.
Came out.
Like, I went there. And when I'd finished, someone that was in the room said, wow, that was pretty full on. I was like, yeah, I guess it was. But the thing that kept coming into my mind, and this is what I was explaining when I was saying the interview for Australian Story, was that I just kept saying to myself, this is not going to happen. This is so not going to happen. This is not going to be my story. Like, it's not happening.
While it was happening.
But I just was not going to let it get to that point. I mean, I didn't really know how it was all going to play out. You don't really think of it when in the heat of the moment. But, yeah, I was adamant to put up the best fight possible. You
had therapy to overcome it, but you grew up in a lot of poverty, didn't you? And you couldn't afford to keep the therapy sessions going, is that right?
Well, by that stage, I was... it wasn't long after that I then got a friend of ours in the family got me a job in a bank. And my mum and my stepdad said, right, off you go to Newcastle. So they took me there. And I started working in a bank there. And it was then that I went, okay, I should see someone about this. So, but I didn't have enough money. Like, I was working in a bank, for goodness sakes. I didn't really have enough money to spend on therapy. So I think I did like 3 sessions and thought, God, this is so expensive. I'm going to have to work this out for myself.
Wow.
So I did.
Money was tight growing up, wasn't it?
Extremely, yes, very much. You know, like, everything was hand-me-downs. My mum was on, like, the most ridiculously tight budget, but she was so good at it. And I think that's where a lot of my organisational skills come from.
What kind of things did she make you do to save money? Or what kind of things did your family do?
Yeah. I mean, well, we never really ate out, ever. She cooked from home all the time. And she was a working mum, so she had to be highly organised to do that. So we had a lot of casseroles. She had the slow cooker. So she'd be up at like 5 o'clock in the morning chopping vegetables and getting things organised and throwing it in the slow cooker so we could all go off together and then come home that night and dinner would be made, ready to go. So she was highly organised like that. We never ate out. We didn't really go to the movies or, you know, do anything like that. But I didn't ever feel like I was missing out.
Did you aspire to having money or business, or did you see a life for yourself that was very different to the one you grew up in?
It's interesting that you asked that, Mia, because I was speaking to Mum. She had to do an Australian Story interview and she was saying, oh, you know, I didn't know what to say. And they were asking me about, you know, did you see something that made you see another life? And she reminded me of when she was working in New Lambton and I had to change schools because of that's where she was working. So I'd go down and sit in her office until she was finished work after school. So I had to go to New Lambton Primary and in the end Lambton High. And this was a very different suburb to the one that I was actually living in. And these kids had pretty good lifestyles. Their parents were not over the top wealthy, but relatively wealthy. And so I was making friends with kids that I'd go back to their house after school and I would literally go, you live here?
Yeah, right.
You could get lost in here.
Big houses, swimming pools.
Yeah, swimming pools.
Fancy cars.
And they'd go out for dinner and sometimes they'd take me with them. And and she said, I'm sure that must have had an effect on you. And I thought, I'd never thought about it like that. And I said, yeah, maybe it did, because it was pretty amazing that these kids had this amazing kind of lifestyle. And I remember being, sorry, Mum, I remember being a bit embarrassed about having kids come back to where I lived, even though it was immaculate. My mum was super tidy, super clean, super organised, but it was very, very modest. And I would think, what are they going to think of my place?
Did they ever say anything?
No, they never really said anything, but it was obviously very different.
You opened your first health club in 2001, and in 2003 you married Bill Moore, who was also a fitness trainer.
Oh yeah, he was a fitness club owner.
He owned it, and
Yeah.
you were a trainer.
Yeah.
So you married the boss.
Well,
Sort
you
of.
could put it like that. Yeah, sure.
And
why
he was
not?
quite a bit older than you.
Yep,
How much older?
about 17 years.
That's a big gap.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It
And he
was.
had kids of his own.
Yep, two boys.
How did
So-
your mum feel about that?
My mum was, just of the opinion, if you're happy, that's the most important thing.
How old were you when you got married?
I was 33.
Did you and Bill talk about having kids together?
It was a discussion that kind of sort of turned up and then went away. He never ever said no, but it was always, if you want to. If you want to, yeah. And there was something in me that was just like, no, I don't want it to be all my choice. I kind of want it to be a united thing.
That you both really wanted?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it never really felt like that. So, and then, at the same time, my business was going bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, it got to if I go right back, it was myself that it really got started in the back bedroom. And then from there, I managed to get the gig on Loser, and then from there I managed to get an agent, and so that's Jane Weston from Chic, and so the two of us were going hammer and tongs, and I kept saying to Bill, I want to get it to a point where you can get out of the job that you're in because I know you're not happy, and you can come and work with us. So that took a little while, but we got there.
You worked with him for quite a while. He was your manager?
Well, it kind of...
Your business partners? How did you describe it?
It sort of just started it was like a startup.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what that's like.
I do. For a while, Jace...
No one has a title.
No. We joked that Jace was the CEO of pimpmywife.com, which sounds awful, but it was more like, it's hard to be making deals for yourself, right? It's hard. So to have someone else saying... Michelle's awesome. She's worth more than that, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
it's much easier to have someone do that for you rather than do it for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to have someone play good cop and
Yeah.
bad cop.
Yeah.
And I kind of had that with Jane. Well, I definitely had that, and I still do. But I guess it was just a personal mission of mine that I just could see he wasn't happy. And, we both are of the same mind and of the same ilk when it comes to fitness and health and well-being. So it just felt, if we could just get it to a place where we could, he could just shift across and start working with us, it'd be awesome. And then that's what happened. So then there was a bit of a joke going that it was like he and Jane had more conversations during the day than I had
About
with him
you.
because they were consistently on the phone together.
You and Bill split in 2013, so like 2 or 3 years ago. I'm going to jump ahead to that because how do you split from someone but stay working together?
Well, you have to put your ego aside, and you have to put aside those emotions that can be...
But how do you do that?
Well, I was lucky. We have a great relationship and still do, and a lot of respect for each other. And we never fought. It wasn't like we were arguing at all.
Did it end up because you wanted to have kids?
No, it was just...
no relationship ends for one single reason.
Yeah,
but it just
exactly.
comes to its natural conclusion.
It was, I guess it felt like it did, but we both had come to the agreement that we were living with our business partners.
Yeah.
And that's, for anybody that's listening right now that actually works with their husband.
Me.
Oh, sorry. Okay, now I'm about to dish out advice. It's hard
It is hard.
And you've got to be on top of it and look after it like a garden. And we just didn't. We were so... there was just so much happening, and it was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, it got to a point where I just felt like we were constantly talking about work, day, night, and everywhere in between. And that can wear you down. Like you've got to have that release time where you don't feel like you're at work. And suddenly, I'd started the office in the back room. And then we grew it to a point where it went to the lounge room. And then eventually it went to an office. But even though it was in an office, we were still coming home. So it was just, I was living where I was working.
And then when you hooked up with, do I call him Steve or do I call him the Commando?
What would you like to call him?
I don't know. I'm in new territory.
What feels
here.
right for you?
I feel like I'd like to call him Steve.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Do
you call him Steve?
No, I call him Commando.
Do you
I'm
actually?
joking. I can't believe you sucked into that.
Only during sex.
Oh my God, you're
I don't know.
funny. His name is Steve.
His name's Steve. Okay, so then when you and Steve had known each other for a long time, you were friends, you guys got together. That must have been weird having that be so public when it was so new. You guys, I imagine, were just dating, navigating that transition from being friends to dating, and yet it was everywhere. You were being followed by paparazzi, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, but, it was weird. Of course it was weird. My life has been a bit weird in many instances. And, my mum rings me and says, "Oh, I saw that." And I go, "Mum, stop reading those magazines. You know better. Just call me."
Yeah, how do you deal with that when it's just... Because people say, well, if you deny it, it must be true. And if you don't deny it, it must be true.
Yeah,
so,
you're better off just not going there. You're better off just... And you know what? It's no one's business.
Was it awkward with Bill? Because that's a weird thing.
Well, it was most important to me, as it would be with anybody when they start a new relationship, that they let their ex know themselves.
But you wouldn't
That's
normally...
respectful.
For most people, you wouldn't have to normally let your ex know, like, that you were going on a date, and yet you were being followed, and... Was it all sort of accelerated in that way?
I guess so, yeah. But you just have to have those conversations, and they're not always easy to have, but that's part of life. That's part of growth.
Did you guys talk about having babies quickly? You didn't have a lot of time. You were already 42. Did you think that ship had sailed?
That was not really the conversation point about, how old I was or whether that ship had sailed. It was just a case of when we started talking about children, his eyes light up.
Yeah.
He is a natural born father. And it was the first time I'd ever sort of had someone that I was in a relationship with that was like, yeah, let's have a baby. I was like, wow, this is the first time I've ever heard that. And I put that in the book. So it just felt right. But of course, then going back to what you said about my age, I thought, I wonder if that'll happen. Well, we'll just see.
And it did.
And it did.
And you were 43?
I was 44.
And no IVF?
No.
Wow.
No, I know. And we talked about IVF and thought maybe that's what will have to happen.
Yeah.
Which didn't bother me at all. It was, okay, if we're going to, pardon to use the words, but if we're going to make it happen, then we'll do
Name
that.
Of the book.
Name of the book. Then we'll do that. But in the end, we didn't.
You didn't have
to.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've been reading your interviews and a lot of the things in your book. Because you are so successful and so fit and so amazing, it seems like there is a public need to see all of your flaws. Like, it's like, are you sure it wasn't IVF? Was it your eggs? Like, tell us. And really, these questions are really nobody's business. And it's like the weight.
I know. Sometimes
gain
I think,
after
so
Axel.
do I have to answer this
See,
question?
I would ask that of anyone. I'm just rude and nosy and inappropriate. So, but... even jumping ahead to Axel and your weight and everything like that, it's almost like you deliberately have to look for things that will make everybody not resent you. Does that make sense? Like saying, he doesn't sleep through the night and I haven't lost the baby weight so fast, and because almost everyone's ready to lynch you and go, oh, don't put pressure on mothers for bouncing back so quickly, and why are you running and telling other women to run? And
yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it that way. Like, I know that there has been, heat on me in
scrutiny.
Yeah, scrutiny, sure. But to be honest with you, I don't think that's the larger proportion of people who follow me, or my audience. I think the larger proportion who are my audience are interested, inspired, perhaps, if I'm, and they want to know what I'm doing personally for training. I was only talking about this the other day, that my audience they're not stupid. They know that I'm a trainer and have been training since I was 14.
And so what you're going to do, it's like, don't do as I say, not as I do.
Well, here's the prescriptions that I put out there, and I put lots of different exercise prescriptions out there for beginners, for intermediates, for advanced, for pregnancy, for post-pregnancy. Like, I cover all those gamuts. But my audience also want to know what I'm personally doing, and I'm not going to hide that. I'm going to say, yeah, well, this is what I'm doing. But, bear in mind, I can write my own program because I'm a professional.
Yeah.
This is my job. By the way, because it's my job, I've been doing it for like umpteen years, and they get that. But then there'll be some that go, "Oh, you shouldn't be telling people what you're actually doing." Well, why?
We'll have more of Michelle in a moment, but first, the Mamma Mia podcast network has a brand new baby.
Oh, well, hello. This is Michelle Laurie, and I chose this sexy music to try and entice you to download my podcast, The Nitty Gritty Committee, which is now proudly part of the Mamma Mia podcast network. I'll be honest with you right now and tell you it's not always sexy, but it's always interesting. From poor little rich kids to organ donation and just how much stuff the average Australian inmate can fit in his rectum, the Nitty Gritty Committee is not about celebrity, diets or fashion, but it is about the guts and the glory of life. You can subscribe now through iTunes or your favourite podcast app. And now I'm going to leave you with some sexy music. You are welcome.
How's the birth, by the way? How did the birth go?
It was a great day. We had a great time.
Did you? Were you scared?
Yeah. Of course.
Because for someone who's able to control their bodies and like so carefully through exercise and diet and everything, and really you've mastered your body your whole life, birth and pregnancy and new motherhood is so much about coming to terms with losing that control. Did you find that?
Totally. It's you just got to accept.
Was that a head screw for you?
No. Like I just said to myself, this is a brand new chapter. I've trained all my life. I've been, in charge of my physicality, and what comes from that is, a great sense of mental calm through my training. But this is a brand new chapter, and I can go back to that chapter. But right now, this is what's going to roll, although you don't actually know what's going to roll, so you're just going to have to
Did you have a
let it
birth
go.
plan, like most new mothers do? You
absolutely
didn't have a birth
not.
plan?
No.
You just let go?
Yeah. I was like, okay, all I want to do is make sure that I'm calm. I just want to be calm.
Were you calm?
Yeah.
Even through the pain? I wasn't very calm.
I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't being mindful of what was happening.
Did you swear at Steve a little bit?
No, there was none of that. There was lots of burpees and push-ups. I'm joking. There was none of that either.
Same. That's how I went through my labours, all of them, just like that. And how did you feel when you held him?
I burst into tears. Not so
Did
calm.
you?
Yeah, totally. Didn't you?
No, I don't cry at the
Well, see,
right
there's no
times.
comparisons. It's different.
No,
It's different.
I found it that it was so intense that I was almost beyond crying. Like I found it so, I don't know, just full on that I couldn't. It's like, oh, there's a baby just came out of my vagina. Oh. Wow.
I know, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so it is overwhelming, but it was fantastic. He was great. We went back to my room.
Was he like an annoying was he in trainer mode through it? Like, was he like, come on?
No, but he was really like interested in what was happening.
Was he? Down the business end.
And he cut the cord. And, but he's so matter of fact and so like a well-oiled machine when it comes to anything about organisation, about, getting things done. And because he's had, that was his fourth child.
Oh, he's got 3 children already.
So he was just very, cool, calm and collected.
How old are his other children?
Jack is 4, Ella is 8, and Brianna is 17. Just turned.
17. Do they spend much time with you guys?
Yeah, we spend a bit of time together, which is really nice.
Yeah. I was saying about how, having it all in the papers and everything is so difficult, and you guys broke up for a while, didn't you, and then got back together?
Yes, that's true. Like all relationships, you've got to work out what's going on and what feels right.
Yeah, and building those foundations.
Exactly.
Did you find that there were some really sexist comments around that time about homewrecker and awful things like that. How did you distance yourself from that, or how did you process that?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I guess I've been there before. I've been in that schoolyard before. I remember being bullied at school. I remember, nasty things being said, and at some point or another you have to make a decision on whether that's going to rule your life and rule the way you think, or you're going to move on from it. So I know who I am. I know what I stand for. I know what I do, and I feel confident in standing my own ground and knowing that. And I don't need to, I guess, get pulled into that gutter. Really. It's just, it's easy to get hurt. But I just sort of think, hang on a minute, that doesn't really mean anything to me. It means nothing to me because I know what's happening for me right here and what's real. So let it go, Mish.
Make It Happen's your 13th book.
Correct.
I just love it. It's just
like being
about
in labour all over again.
Is it like that? No.
Yes.
You've got just the most dogged determination to get shit done. I mean, the stories you tell in this book and this idea of not taking no for an answer and faking it until you're making it. We've met a few times and you are the same off air as you are on it. Like, you are the same. Like most really popular people, you don't have an on and an off button. Who you are on screen is the same as who you are off screen. And I say that as a compliment.
I actually don't know any other way to be.
Some people aren't. Some people do. It's funny you say fake it until you make it. Some people are more fake and they have a persona around their brand. But you are just resolutely positive.
Oh, look, I have my moments. I have my moments. Don't get me wrong. Like,
what do those moments look like?
Oh, they look like me on the couch in tears. When your question before with regards to things that have been said in the media. Yeah, sure, they it's not like I'm Superwoman.
You're not Teflon.
Yeah, exactly. I remember speaking to my girlfriend, like, I was upset, really upset, and I was sort of crying on the couch. And I said to her, I feel like I'm in a street fight, and I'm the one on the ground, and there's 10 around me, all laying the boot in, and some of them don't actually know why they're laying the boot in, but it just feels good.
Welcome to social media.
That's what it. And she said, "My God, what a description!" I said, "That's how it feels."
And you've sort of got your hands tied behind your back because you sort of go, well, do I get involved in this awful conversation or do I just?
But that was a moment, and I spoke with her, my best friend, and then it's done.
The controversy that there is around, extreme diet shows like The Biggest Loser and that kind of stuff, that seems quite counter to your philosophy with 12 WBT and the Michelle Bridges brand, which does seem to have a more gentle approach and a more less extreme approach. Are you conflicted by those by that disparity, or is one just a TV show and the other is you?
When I first started Loser, I really had to think about what it was that I wanted to do, whether I actually really wanted to do that show or not, because I had to digest that it was a television show. But then I realised that it was an opportunity to get a message out there, and ultimately we actually are working for longer than 12 weeks on the show. It's 12 weeks on air. And there's always the argument, if they take the weight off too quickly, they'll put it back on quickly. But I disagree with that. Show me one person that's lost the weight quickly and put it back on quickly, and I'll show you 5 people that have lost the weight slowly and put it back on quickly. So time isn't the factor here. What the factor is what you learn when you're in that process. It's taking weight off is kind of like a science, but keeping it off is a psychology. And I also realised that particularly when I was going up against journalists and so forth, around, it can't be good for them, and you're berating people on television. that I wanted to sort of go, I need to combat this because I believe in this show. And I thought, I've got it. I can combat this. The numbers speak the truth. We've got doctors sitting there with their jaws on the floor going, what the hell are you doing? These people, it's off the radar. They're no longer on their medications. They're no longer taking their type 2 diabetes medication.
But isn't it, it's possible anyone could lose
pressure.
half their body weight if they were deprived of food, made to exercise 8 hours a day, compared to had their diets restricted and changed. I mean, is that surprising?
It's not, but how come? Why is it that we haven't been able to get our heads around that? Why is it that it's not that we deprive people of food. We change the way in which they eat, and we get them exercising. It's really a no-brainer.
What did you learn?
How come we haven't managed to get?
What did you learn about weight loss? Having to take off the baby weight, and how did you view that? Did you view it as a mountain to climb? How's your body changed? How's your head changed?
Well, it's not really my priority. My priority is Axel, and my priority is just enjoying him and enjoying our time. And if I can get back to my training, great. But if I can't today or I miss tomorrow, for me, it's not a big deal.
But it would have once been. I mean, I exercise also for my head as much as anything else. I use exercise to help with anxiety and stuff like that. And I find that if I can't exercise, there's an effect. For someone who's exercised since they were 14, how have you made that shift? Has it been a shift for you?
I guess my head is now on him.
Yeah.
So I get it, 'cause this is the thing particularly with media. Whenever media talks about exercise, it's always about get skinny now, get in your size 10 jeans, look hot in your bikini.
Yeah, no, that's not what it is for me.
And that's not what it is for you. And
No.
it's not. Hey, don't get me wrong. I don't mind looking good in my bikini,
No.
and I like getting into my jeans. But for me,
there are other knock-on effects of exercise
massive,
for many people,
massive
and it's
knock-on.
great for depression, and it's great for
Exactly.
a bunch of stuff.
Exactly, but we don't. That's not sexy to talk about that.
No.
We want to talk about, she's putting pressure on herself because she wants to look good.
No.
And it's like, well, no, it's not. It's because it's great for my head.
Absolutely.
But right now, I'm finding I'm getting my refresh button mentally every time I'm with him. And it's just because it's new for me. Like I haven't had a child before. I'm finding it the world's most amazing experience.
What's your day like? Tell me. What's your day like now?
Well, I've been up for a couple of hours during the evening. So in the mornings, I'm up at
So you breastfeed him through the night?
Yeah. So then we'll be awake about 6. And he might go off to sleep about 7:30 a.m. and sometimes I'll go off to sleep with him, which means I won't get up until maybe 10 o'clock. And
That's a change for you.
God, it's 10 a.m. and I'm still in my pajamas. This is fun.
Are you able to be kind to yourself around that?
Yep. I know that I need to. I know that that's for me what feels right personally for me is. That's cool. It's fine. It's a moment. This isn't for the rest of my life.
You said there's no maternity leave when you run your own business, which is very true. There is none.
No.
So, okay, so you having a bit of a snooze, it's 10, then what happens?
So then usually I've got to, I will be checking my emails and I will probably have a few phone calls to make. There might be, I'm trying to make it so that there's only 1, maybe 2 things in a day. And then some days there's nothing. So I might go a whole day where it's just me and Axel. But then then maybe on an alternate day there might be 1 meeting to go to and maybe a shoot of some sort. So he's come along to a couple of shoots.
Yeah.
He went to his first board meeting last week and he went down in the minutes as an observer.
Just an observer. A quiet observer?
I think he made the best decisions in that board meeting, frankly.
I've noticed that there's all this pressure on new mothers now, celebrity new mothers, to say they don't have any help, which to me is just...
Is there?
Yeah. So there's all this thing of, it's like a trick question. Have you got help? Have you got a nanny? And so I've now found that all these women have to announce, I don't have any help or I don't have a nanny. And, if you're running your own business, and maybe you don't, I'm not saying that you should say whatever you want, but I've just noticed that that's become a new thing we're trying to hit women with. So preemptively they're announcing, I don't have any help, as if that gets them extra points, or I don't have a nanny. And it's like, well, the practicalities, if you've got 2 working parents and you don't get any maternity leave, you need it. And I just wonder if you feel the pressure not to have any help.
No, there's no pressure not to have help. For me, I don't want to miss a thing.
You'll get over that.
Yeah, I figured that I probably will get over that.
There are some things you can miss.
But
it's 9 weeks. You don't want to miss anything.
I don't want to miss anything. So we don't have family in Sydney.
That must be tough.
Well,
so like today, where is he?
He's with Steve.
Steve. I'm looking under the desk to make sure
he's not under
being
the
an
desk.
observer.
Yeah, he's with Steve today. So I just set it up on Monday. I've got all these interviews. He said, all right.
So you guys both have flexible enough jobs that you can juggle it.
We can juggle it. And in the fullness of time, there'll probably come a time when I do need to have some help, and I'm not ashamed to say that they'll be asking for it at all. That's the smart thing to do for me personally, if I want to, get things done. But right now I am able to juggle it between myself and him, and that's great.
What's different to how you thought motherhood would be?
I didn't realise it would turn me into such a softie. Oh my God.
Were you clucky before? I was never clucky.
No. And there was never this, they get the photos of the kids out. Here we go. I've got to stand here and look at all the photos of the kids. And now I'm like, have you seen this photo? How cute is he? So, yeah, he's turned me into a bit of a softie in that regard. I think I see things differently now. I used to just run around like a mad woman, getting from A to B to C to D, getting everything done, planes, trains and automobiles. And now everything has to be, it was always planned, but now it has to be planned in a lot more slow motion time, which I quite like, just quietly.
You said you were good at that with the birth, just not having any plans. But then babies are really hard to control. Children, oh my God.
Oh, yeah. No,
So how do you, regimented, often people who are the most regimented struggle the most in those early months, because it's like, what do you mean? It's 7:30. Why are you not asleep? How you, as someone who is very organised, how do you deal with the all bets are off?
Well, it's a good question, and I guess I'm still going to work those answers out as I go. So, for example, like Jane, my agent, will have a few things in my diary. And for the most part, I'll go, yep, that should be fine. And then I'll ring her and say, hey, I'm going to be half an hour late. Let them know.
Axel can't read the plan.
Exactly. I think a lot of people see me as this person who's completely organised, and that's not me. I am relatively organised, and I have my plan, and I've got my schedule and my calendar, which is booked out to the end of virtually this year. But that being said, I'm still pretty loose around.
Do you lose your shit ever?
Of course.
Like when?
Gosh. If there's just all too much, then I'll just have a minor meltdown.
But what does you losing your shit look like?
Oh, there's definitely some expletives there with exclamation marks on the end. A crying, yeah, and maybe even a laying on the bed going, why am I doing all this? And then it's over.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
The last question I just wanted to ask you, 2 more. What's your first thought when you meet someone that's overweight?
I meet them as they are. I meet them for that person. It's only if they start asking me questions that I start really thinking about them in that regard.
Are you like a plastic surgeon? Like, I imagine, I've got a friend who's married to a plastic surgeon, and whenever I'm talking to him, I don't worry anymore, but at first I used to always think he's looking at me and he's thinking, you should
if only you did this.
Yeah, because that's his job. Like, that's just the way he deconstructs people.
I do that. I definitely do that. Like, I'll say to Steve, oh, look at that girl. She's got the best, she could squat. Imagine if we got her in the gym. Or I'd say, oh, look at that guy. He doesn't. You can see he doesn't train. If you got him in the gym, he'd be a weapon. We kind of look at people's physicalities, not in a judgmental way. We just look at it in a way of a training capacity. Oh, that guy'd make a great runner, or look, you can see why he's a fantastic runner. Look at his legs, that kind of thing.
Do you have more sympathy now for people who say they're too busy to exercise?
No. If I'm really honest.
Being exhausted in the morning hasn't, having to be up all night with a baby and then waking up in the morning hasn't made you think, yeah, it could be a bit hard.
I sometimes check in with myself and say, all right, are you just making this as a bit of an excuse, or can you really go and do something? And sometimes I can go for a walk and I actually feel better for it. And then other times I can actually go to the gym and do something properly and feel better for it. And then other times I'm good to go. So I have to still check in with myself, and I give myself gentle workouts, I suppose you could call it, where I'll just go, I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm just going to walk the dog, throw the frisbee, throw the ball, get outside, breathe the air, see the birds, see the sky. I'm good.
Get out of my PJs. Be good. Put some deodorant on, Michelle. Brush your teeth, thanks. Maybe just do something with that hair. Having paparazzi outside your door, I can't imagine what that feels like. Like, is it not hard enough leaving the house when you're a new mother? Do they hang outside your house?
Not necessarily hang outside, although they have done on occasions, but just, I think they trawl around, looking for bait.
Clickbait.
And it's always when I think, oh God, I look like hell. Oh, there won't be anyone. There's always someone around.
Hey, Michelle, thanks so much for talking to me.
You're welcome.
Your new book, Make It Happen, Live Your Best Life. Get back to Axel. Lots of love.
Thank you. Bye.
Give him a little sniffy baby smell.
I'll show you a photograph. I'll make you smile.
I would love
and
to
nod
see
your head.
that. This episode of No Filter proudly supports Rise Up. Visit riseup.com.au, that's riseup.com.au, to find out how you can help them to help women and children who have been affected by family violence. Just one click on their Facebook page and you can help. Thanks for listening to No Filter. Subscribe in iTunes for more episodes. This show is hosted by me, Mia Friedman, and produced by Eliza Ratliff for the Mamma Mia Podcast Network. You can find out more about all our shows on the Mamma Mia Podcast Network's Facebook page or on my Facebook page, Mia Friedman. There are so many ways to be in touch. You can contact us, you can suggest an interview subject, you can leave feedback, or you can just show us your love via Twitter at Mamma Mia Podcasts or by emailing podcast@mammamia.com.au.